Greetings, brothers and sisters. As always, we are thankful to the one God for blessing us to be present. We thank Him for His divine wisdom and His perfect and infallible understanding of all things. We are indebted to Him for sending to us the prophets. We are indebted to Him for giving the knowledge that He gave His servants, the prophets, the revelation of such to His students, the apostles. Well, we can say of a truth it is good for us to be here. Amen. We thank Him for His mercy, and we are here by God's mercy. We are sustained today by God's grace and God's foreknowledge to know the ending of a thing before it began, to know the outcome of a thing before He even get it started. We're here today only by God's grace, and because of such, we have endured for 25 years. And nothing worthwhile come easy, but it come through a lot of hard work, a lot of fasting, a lot of prayers, and being consistent and fighting the devil. It's one thing about the devil, he's an enemy of anything that is godly. And you have to respect him. Someone say, I don't respect the devil. I respect him. Because there is no opponent opposite from God that was created by God to test man and every aspect of his existence. So God made this enemy. God did. And He didn't make him for nothing. He made the devil to let man know you do have another alternative if you don't want God. Satan have fought us for many of years, but we can bear witness that God Almighty have brought us out of everything that Satan have brought to the plate to this very day. That's right. We can thank God for that. To my viewers, I want to thank the brothers and sisters and the television viewers that have sent us cards, that have sent us emails of congratulations and whatnot. This is just not a celebration for us, but it's for the First Church family at large, many thousands that you don't see. This broadcast is dedicated to all of our brothers and sisters that are laboring with us around the world, to them that are listening and watching in Africa and also in Argentina and Venezuela, in Chile and Canada, throughout America, in the Philippines, through the Caribbean, in India, every place where God have taken this uncompromising message of holiness that had the devil and his followers upset. We came a long way from the basement to now. We didn't start out overnight, and this didn't come about overnight either. I had many people ask me, aren't you content? Aren't you satisfied? Not at all, because there's so much more you can do. A lot of ministers have a tendency of getting satisfied once they start out small and then become reasonably large. Deception sets in the form of contentment, because they feel as though they can't do no more, or God, should I say, can't do no more. I'm a firm believer that God can do all things. When I think of where we are today and where we were yesterday, I, from experience, was told from my former minister that God Almighty have not spoken to us about anything. The work that is taking place now internationally, It was first given to us in a vision in my early teens. No minister died and we took over his work. No. We didn't inherit somebody else's problem.
No.
Not at all. See, many of you fellas got it easy. You took over somebody else's work and doing a bad job with that.
Amen.
We started from scratch. Scorched earth. Grassroots.
Yeah.
My former minister told me after I began to discuss with him the things that God Almighty showed us. I had a very real divine experience with God.
That's right.
I didn't eat too much sweet potatoes and went to bed and had one of them heavy dreams. No, I didn't get a message from the strange sound of windshield wipers.
That's right.
You know, when you was a child and you listen to that windshield wipers, it seems like it's talking to you. My wife didn't push me in the pulpit.
That's right.
My father or my mother did not push me in the pulpit. I didn't go to Bible school. Never had a biblical lesson from a university, from a seminary in my life. I had a real divine vision from God.
That's right.
Before God ever sent any man, he make himself known to him.
That's right.
If God don't make himself known to you, you're out on your own. That's like being out without a compass. So you have no sense of direction. God let us know what our job was, but didn't never let us know when it would start.
Right.
And I related this to my former minister, and he said, well, this work you're talking about, where you going to get started at? I said, I don't know. He said, you see that? God ain't never told no one get started, do something, and then send them. They don't know where they're going. I said, he told Abraham.
That's right.
The book let us know Abraham didn't know where he was going. But God led him. And he believed in the God of his salvation.
Amen.
So we started out in the cellar against no odds. I say that because when it comes to God, we don't have no odds.
Right.
We were told we would never amount to anything. We were told straight up that no one would ever follow us. I even related to the minister about the broadcast that God showed us. He said, God ain't told you nothing. You're not going to have no broadcast. He said, it took me 40 years to get where I am. Where was he? Nowhere.
Nowhere.
But standing in 2 empty buildings.
That's right.
He said, there's no way you're going to come out and do more work than what I done. I didn't disrespect him because he was my elder. I respect him and stood quiet and listened. Wouldn't go word for word. I was raised better. But in my heart, I was blessed to be able to differentiate the voice of God versus personal feelings wanting to do something versus the voice of the enemy, the devil. So I let him state his case and I held on to the case that God gave me. When it came time to leave, by that time the church was practically empty and there was nobody there but my wife, who was my ex-spouse wife at the time, and Jess Williams. The church was empty. My father, the minister, disrespected him and my mother for years. My mother and father mortgaged their house 2 to 3 times to keep that church from falling up.
Amen.
And yet he was my uncle. But when God steps in, there is no relationship.
Right.
None. I don't believe in sticking with something because it's blood.
That's right.
I believe in sticking with something because it's godly.
Amen.
Spirit is thicker than blood.
That's right.
So When I was in my early teens, 14, 15, and 16, and I would sit and tell Williams and Brother Mike about this great vision that God showed me. I remember I talked to my older brother, Deke. Deke was so involved in his theology until he told me the two things is wrong. Either God is dealing with you or our mother birthed the first and only retarded child in the house. I admit I was hit by an 18-wheeler when I was 7, but that didn't do nothing up here. You must be able to distinguish the voice of God from having a disagreement with the preacher and then running out starting something.
Right.
You must, when you say, the Lord said such and such unto me, it better be God.
That's right.
If not, that lie will damn you throughout eternity. In fact, to say God said something and he did not is blasphemy.
That's right.
The prophet Jeremiah said, who is he that saith, and it come to pass when the Lord saith it not?
That's right.
So, when it was just Williams and I and my wife at the time, my father, he left. He didn't go start the church. He said God didn't send him to lead people. He was just that honest. He said, I'm not a leader. God did not send me to lead people. So he sat home and just read. He said, Gene. I said, yeah. He said, what you gonna do? I said, Pop, the vision that God gave me, whenever God told me to move, I'll move. He said, well, you wait on God then. My mother would stop in time after time and check on her boy and see how he's doing, but she stuck with her husband. I understand. So my wife would come and stop at each chair and usher nobody.
That's right.
With no one in the building.
That's right.
Williams would read, and we would preach, and the building would be vacant.
Vacant.
But we would preach like the building was packed.
That's right.
I learned then, if you cannot be dedicated to one,
That's right.
you cannot be loyal to 1,000.
Amen.
You just can't. We started out in the basement, my home of my mother and father, and started out with 12 to 15 people. For heat, we used a pot, filtered up with water, turned the stove on, make the pipes sweat.
That's right.
And then the Lord would bring heavy rains and water would come, the drain would back up, flood the basement out. Many a mornings before service would start, mud is washed all in the basement. We have to come down the basement, clean everything up before the people come in. For a pulpit podium, we used a dresser and a tablecloth for a covering.
That's right.
And clothing still was in the dresser.
That's right.
But I believe that God could not lie, and at his appointed time, he would surely bring to pass. One thing in the midst of that, God teaches you patience. For the book says, let patience have her perfect work. Oh, many times I got frustrated because, see, I lacked understanding. I thought as a result of the vision that things would move quick. Glory to God, but it wasn't appointed time. I didn't have a clue that we would be in the basement 5 years and some change. Many of our enemies would come visit us, and they felt sorry for us because they didn't see no further than pipes,
Right.
and a concrete floor, and a drop ceiling. Without a vision, the word of God says the people what? Perish. From Jerome Street We baptized over 350 souls while we're still in the cellar.
That's right.
Underground. Many would come by, make mockery. My former minister, when he heard that we was in the basement, he artificially and hypocritically prophesied.
Yes.
And said, we would never come out of the cellar. Never. I would be there till I'm old and die there. Don't ever declare, thus saith the Lord, when the Lord said nothing.
That's right.
Because God have a way of making you a liar.
Oh, yeah.
From the basement, we went to Briar Road up in Mount Airy, where we rented a recreation center of a Lutheran or Episcopalian church.
Right.
Church, God bless the recreation center, God filled it up. It was there where the Lord blessed us with the radio broadcast.
That's right.
Oh, we were so excited. We would come on Sunday afternoon from 2:30 to 3:30 over shortwave. By that time, it was falling in Africa, prime time. So after the morning service was over, people wouldn't even go eat. They'd be gathered around the radio with enthusiasm and excitement. Listen to the shortwave program. I prayed and asked God, before our first year is up, we want 10 stations and an hour on all of them. Before our first broadcast anniversary, God gave us 11 stations and an hour on all of them.
That's right.
Before the first year was up.
That's right.
The second year of our pastoring the brothers and sisters, Salisbury, Maryland came to work with us. Landover, Maryland came to work with us. Stafford, Virginia, or Fredericksburg came to work with us. Very few in number.
Yeah.
In each location we went. In Stafford, there was only one member, Mother Greenheart. We went there for 10 years.
That's right.
Every single month, dedicated to one member.
That's right.
In Landover, Maryland, there was only about 5. We was there every month preaching to 5 people.
That's right.
In Salisbury, Maryland, there was only a few there. People were so excited and so anxious until one mother, Mother Stackett, converted her garage to a little chapel. We held service in a garage.
Amen.
She cleaned the garage out, put wall-to-wall carpet in there. They built a little pulpit stand and podium and half folding chairs. And we was right there in the garage,
Yeah.
preaching.
That's right.
Amen. That's why we don't frown upon small things.
That's right.
You should never forget where you came from, and don't lose focus on where you are and paying attention to where you're going.
Amen.
God brought us here to Frankfurt Avenue, and from Frankfurt, slowly but surely, before we even got to Frankfurt Avenue, the doors to the world started opening up.
That's right.
We've been broadcasting on the radio now for, oh my God, over 20-something years. But when God blessed us to get on television, floodgates start happening.
That's right.
Now the Truth of God is one of the most controversial programs in the world to date.
Amen.
And the best thing that have ever happened to television.
Amen.
This is not a program, this is not a religious program of money hustle. You won't find that here.
Amen.
There is no prosperity plan.
No.
Not with houses and cars and money and land.
That's right.
The greatest form of prosperity is wisdom, knowledge, and divine understanding who God is.
That's right.
You can have all the money you want.
That's right.
If you don't know God, you don't have nothing.
Nothing.
Live in your mansion, drive your car, sail in your yacht,
Yeah.
but if you don't know God,
Yeah.
you don't have nothing.
Nothing.
What doeth profit a man to gain the whole world and then lose his soul? From that time until now, the God of heaven has stood with us,
That's right.
proven over and over again that our enemies were wrong.
That's right.
Now we have new enemies,
New enemies.
new generation of enemies
That's right.
who carry the same germ and the same virus that our old enemies carry.
That's right.
But we have the same antidote and will give you the same treatment
Amen.
to rectify your problem.